Admiral Kethavar's 6 eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he watched the final preparations on the bridge of his flagship. The void render hung in space like a metallic tumor, its obsidian hull bristling with energy conduits that pulsed with malevolent purple light. 3 solar cycles of construction, the combined resources of 17 worlds and the sacrifice of countless lives had gone into this moment. "Admiral," his tactical officer chittered, mandibles clicking nervously. "The human fleet approaches our position. 67 vessels maintaining standard formation." Kethavar's tentacles curled in what passed for a smile among his species. The Zephyrian hegemony had been locked in brutal warfare with humanity for nearly a decade. These pink-skinned mammals had proven surprisingly resilient, their crude kinetic weapons and primitive fusion drives somehow holding the line against superior Zephyrian technology. But today would end their stubborn resistance. "Humans," he mused aloud, his voice carrying across the bridge through bioacoustic amplifiers. "Such a young species. They barely learned to split the atom when we were already traveling between stars. Yet they fight with the fury of cornered vermin." The bridge crew shifted uneasily. Everyone had heard the stories, human boarding parties, that refused to die even when riddled with plasma burns, human pilots who rammed their fighters into Zephyrian dreadnoughts rather than surrender, human colonies that chose orbital bombardment over capitulation. The tales had begun to affect morale across the fleet. "Sir," the communications officer announced, "the human Admiral Chen is requesting parley." "Put her through." The main viewer shimmered, revealing a middle-aged human woman in a crisp blue uniform. Admiral Sarah Chen looked tired but determined, her graying hair pulled back in a severe bun. Behind her, Kethavar could see the utilitarian bridge of her flagship, no elegant bio-organic curves like Zephyrian vessels, just harsh angles and exposed metal. "Admiral Kethavar," Chen said, her voice steady despite the hopelessness of her position. "I assume you've brought us here to demonstrate your new toy." Kethavar's tentacles writhed with amusement, humans and their colorful expressions. "Yes, Admiral Chen. Today you witness the Void Render, a weapon that will reduce your pathetic fleet to its component atoms. I thought it only sporting to give you the opportunity to surrender first." Chen's expression didn't change. "And spare my crews. The crews will be processed for useful biological materials. Your ships will be salvaged for scrap. It's more than your species deserves after the trouble you've caused." A ghost of a smile crossed Chen's weathered features. "I see. Well, in that case, I have a counterproposal." "I'm listening." "You can take your superweapon and shove it up your—" Kethavar cut the transmission with a violent gesture. Around the bridge, his officers recoiled at the crude human vulgarity. Such barbarism only confirmed their racial superiority. "Target the human flagship," he commanded. "Full power to the Void Render. Let them witness the glory of Zephyrian science before they die." The massive weapon began to hum, its energy collectors drawing power from the system's star itself. Space. Around the device shimmered with barely contained forces that could crack planets. On tactical displays, energy readings climbed toward theoretical maximums. "Void Render at 90% charge, Admiral." "Excellent, on my mark." "Sir!" The sensor operator's voice cracked with panic. "I'm reading massive energy spikes from the human fleet." Kethavar spun toward the tactical display. The human ships were changing. Armor plating was retracting, revealing hidden weapon systems, but these weren't the crude kinetic cannons they'd come to expect. These weapons glowed with the same ominous light as their own plasma technology. "Impossible," he breathed. "They don't have the technology for—" Admiral Chen's voice cut through the bridge speakers, transmitted on an open frequency for all to hear. "All ships, this is Chen. Remember what Command told us about this new Zephyrian toy? Something about channeling stellar energy through exotic matter matrices. Well, boys and girls, turns out human engineers are pretty good at reverse engineering." Kethavar's blood ran cold. "Full scan of the human vessels now." The results were devastating. Each human ship now mounted weapons nearly identical to their own Void Render, albeit smaller. 67 miniaturized versions of their ultimate weapon, all aimed directly at his fleet. "How?" he whispered. Chen's laughter echoed through the comm system. "You want to know the funny thing about humans, Admiral? We're really, really good at taking your best shot and figuring out how to hit back twice as hard. Did you think we just sat around for 3 years while you built this thing? Every battle, every engagement, we were learning, studying, adapting. But the technology, the exotic matter synthesis alone should have taken you decades." "Maybe, if we were working alone," Chen replied. "But here's another thing about humans. We make friends easily. Turns out, half the species you've conquered over the centuries weren't too happy about it. Amazing what a displaced Altarian physicist can accomplish when you give him a proper lab and promise to help liberate his homeworld." The human fleet began to move, maintaining formation while their weapons powered up. Energy readings across 67 ships climbed toward maximum charge. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, voice barely above a whisper, "the human weapons are showing identical energy signatures to our own, but there are so many of them." Kethvar understood. One void render could destroy a fleet, but 67 void renders could glass an entire star system. "Open a channel to Admiral Chen," he said quietly. The human woman reappeared on screen, still smiling that infuriating smile. "Changed your mind about that surrender offer?" "Admiral Chen," Kethvar began, his proud bearing finally cracking. "Perhaps we can discuss terms." "Oh, I'm sorry," Chen interrupted, her voice dripping with mock concern. "I think there's been a miscommunication. You see, we didn't come here to surrender. We came here for target practice." The last thing Admiral Kethvar saw was the synchronized firing of 67 human superweapons, their combined fury turning the pride of the Zephyrian fleet into scattered atoms drifting in, the cosmic wind. Later, Admiral Chen would write in her report, "Recommend immediate deployment of Render-class weapons to all fronts. Enemy morale appears to be significantly impacted by having their own weapons used against them. Also recommend continued cooperation with refugee scientists. Their contributions have proven invaluable to the war effort." But for now, she simply watched the expanding cloud of debris that had once been the Zephyrian superfleet and allowed herself a satisfied smile. Humans had always been good at learning from their enemies. Some lessons apparently were more explosive than others.